Any guesses as to when I started the Wheel of Time? Any guesses? Is it clear in any way? Hello and welcome to Shelf Centered. Thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate you helping the channel out here and taking a look at my nonsense. I am so excited for the Wheel of Time. I wanted to do a GoT versus WoT, or a WoT versus GoT, Game of Thrones versus Wheel of Time video, because I'm really excited. I think a lot of people like me, Game of Thrones fans first, will really enjoy the Wheel of Time as I have. And so where I'm coming from is I've read the entire Wheel of Time and all 15 books, so 14 in the main series and then one prequel. I have read 4 of the 5 Game of Thrones books. I've just been putting off Dance with Dragons. Just haven't gotten there yet. The show did not help that much. But I've read the prequel novels, I read the history, I've read pretty much everything else. For some reason, I have just been stalling on Dance with Dragons. Part of that is I've been waiting for the next installments and wanting to get it ready and read it when those come out, or when I know those are coming out. So that'll definitely be happening eventually. But anyway, so Game of Thrones, I know a lot of fans of Wheel of Time are a little frustrated with the comparison that people make to Game of Thrones. The thing is, it kind of just, well, for me, I'm excited. I think it's a good thing. Think of how beloved Game of Thrones was, at least for a time. Not forever, not now as much, but for a time, it was the best thing ever, and that's absolutely, it was warranted. It was such a good show, and so I think the comparisons are apt. So I've got a couple questions, though, that keep coming up through my site, through friends. They know what I do, that I am big into this scene. And so just wanted to settle some things as far as Game of Thrones and Wheel of Time go. So the WoT versus the GoT. Hey, Editing Bryce here. Just wanted to clarify a couple things. I haven't actually watched the Wheel of Time series yet. This is just more thoughts and more of an attempt to say, hey, give this a try. I'm giving it a try as well as, again, a fellow Game of Thrones fan. And so that's mainly where this is coming from. If it's terrible, we'll all be there together, but I don't believe it will be. I think it'll be great, but that's where I'm coming from, just so you know. I just based purely on having read both of the series, well, for the most part, as you see. All right, back to me. The first question I often get is Wheel of Time the next Game of Thrones? And I think, I'll give you a good lawyer answer for it, is it depends. I know a lot of fans will be mad at me for that, but of the Wheel of Time. Because they're like, no, it's not. But if you really, on a level that Game of Thrones fans, and I think your typical Game of Thrones fans is at, I mean, I got a question, is this new thing on Amazon, is that the prequel for Game of Thrones? And I get it, because that's the thing, that is, how would you know? It's another fantasy thing that's coming out. And so it's along the lines of, is it fantasy? Is it another epic fantasy? Absolutely. And that's what Game of Thrones is. Is it the next that's what Wheel of Time is. Is it the next Game of Thrones? In that sense, sure, we'll go with it. And that will frustrate a lot of fans. But I think it is. I'm going to say yes. How is it not, though, the next Game of Thrones? I think that's the next question that we have here. It's not the next Game of Thrones because if you look at IMDb, it is rated TV 14. And I think that's accurate. That's absolutely what the books felt like. Is PG-13 is the typical one, but TV 14, sure. About that level. It's not filled with sex, though it references it. It's not filled with like the over-the-top violence and just craziness that Game of Thrones is. And again, there's an argument for how good all that stuff is. But it is not Game of Thrones in that sense, in that they had to invent a new word of sex position to be able to explain what that is. Explain the world building while showing other things. So, Wheel of Time is not that, and it's more of more of a Lord of the Rings comparison, and I think that is apt because if you listen or go read what the author himself said, Robert Jordan, and sadly he passed away before he even finished the series, but it was finished, and we'll get to that in a second. But if you read up on your Robert Jordan, he kind of used the Lord of the Rings as kind of a stepping stone to start the series. So you get a bit of a fellowship vibe in the first book, and it's kind of looking like that. I don't know where else they would start for the show, but it's a bit of a fellowship, kind of a travelogue, kind of a fantasy series, at least at first. And the beauty of that is that this takes that was the big trope is that, travel, we're going to travel someplace, we're going to have the chosen one the chosen one who's destined for greatness and all that. And Robert Jordan took that and he kind of spun it on its head a bit. And he said, well, what if we had this chosen one, but it's been so long, there's been so much time past we know about it, but that's a joke. That's for children. That's ridiculous. So, what happens when that prophesied one comes at the prophesied time to save the world from the dark one, and not only does no one believe in the dark one, but nobody helps the prophesied one, and he's got to figure this out. And so that is what the Wheel of Time kind of at least starts out with, but it gets massive. And then another trope kind of subversion is it's not just following that one person. It's about everyone in the series and the characters. And so that's the next thing is, what's the emphasis here? Because I feel like Game of Thrones, it's got great characters, but I think the emphasis is a lot on the kind of more what we call grimdark aspects, but the darker elements, the darker elements of humanity, of just people being terrible to each other, and then those surprises too. So you have Game of Thrones is kind of known for the big surprises. And Wheel of Time is more traditional in that sense. You're not going to get those big surprises, and I won't spoil those for Game of Thrones, but you know what I'm talking about if you've watched it or read it. So you don't have that with the Wheel of Time. You have more of a traditional sense, but again, the Wheel of Time is more focused on these characters. You're going to get to know them and know down to what they're wearing. Obviously we can see, but in the books you knew what they were wearing, what they preferred to wear, down to just every level of their life. You knew these characters, they became part of you, and that's the beauty of the series right there, is you become friends with them in, I know, the nerdiest sense ever. Now, one of the things that I think, one of the best things that Wheel of Time brings to the table is that it is a completed and finished story. And not only is it a completed and finished story, unlike Game of Thrones from George R. R. Martin, but it has a satisfying ending. And I hope that's not too much of a spoiler, because I'm not spoiling any ending. I'm just saying I have not met someone or anyone who has said that they disliked the ending of the Wheel of Time. I've heard a couple criticisms, but nothing that's like outright, oh, I hated that ending. As opposed to Game of Thrones, where it was going along well as long as there was some source material, and as soon as there wasn't, you saw a noticed dip. And there's like that meme of the horse, right? That's season 8 of Game of Thrones, I'm sorry, and even arguably season 7. It is what it is. I just, once they had lost that, and I think maybe it was more lost the zeal of doing the show. I don't know why you would do that and pretty much make your names a hiss and a byword, but here we are. And so I, I don't know who. I'm not excited for anything that the D&D does again, because I just don't feel like they can do things very well unless they have great source material. Sure. So I'm going to be very cautious with anything that they do going forward. So, but Wheel of Time, we know it has a great ending. It has I have to be clear that there's definite criticism. There's a whole portion of books called the slog lovingly by the readers. But I think it's a testament to how good the series is that you're so invested, you love these characters, you love this world so much by the time the slog hits, which is about books 7 through 10, that and maybe 8 through 10 is more accurate, but you have enough going for you that is not so unpleasant. It just clearly the story has slowed down and gotten bogged down in just the sheer extent of it. And so what the beauty of that is that it's been done, it's gone through, and now we have a show that can kind of streamline it. And it sounds like that's what the process is being able to, in show form, being able to streamline it. And so instead of, a planned 14 season series, it's really more of a 7 or 8 as I understand it. And so correct me if I'm wrong though. So I've just got to tell you, I'm so excited. I welcome these comparisons to Game of Thrones because it was beloved. We already have millions of fans so excited for the Wheel of Time, and it already looks so good. It's taken out a lot of my concerns that I had, and I've already kind of and those concerns being it's hard to adapt a high magic system to this. And so Game of Thrones is more of a low magic, and so I feel like it's a little easier to shoot because it's not focused so much on the magic. We're focused on the intrigue, on the plotting and all that. And the magic plays a part, and it's there, and there's even dragons, but it's not it's not so much of a focus. Whereas Wheel of Time is high fantasy as opposed to Game of Thrones is low fantasy. Wheel of Time, magic infects everything. Almost the biggest part of the world of the Wheel of Time is what's called the One Power, and women can access it through the way that they access it. They can access their part of the One Power. I won't get into the wording of everything, the Sidar, and I guess I will. And I can't help myself. And women can access their part of the One Power, and they then, when this organization that kind of trains women in that and also has authority over them and governs them, they find out that women can channel, because it's not everybody, and that's what channeling is using this One Power, that they kind of adopt them into their bureaucracy, the Aes Sedai. And so they do, so the women have their function in this, and they can access this One Power, and they're great, and they're known as essentially up there with kings and queens. And then men can also access the One Power through Sidene, which is the other side of the One Power. But the problem is that it was tainted by the Dark One. And again, we already, with some of that, it's got a Dark One. It's got a pretty traditional start to this series, but it subverts a lot of these tropes that I really love. And I love the tropes anyway, so I'm a little biased anyway. But I like the subversion of them. And so with the men, kind of because their side is tainted, it causes them to go crazy if they use it too long or any period of time. It could happen at any point. It just depends on the person. And so you've literally got this fundamental thing in the world that everything revolves around. And so you're going to have so much more magic involved in this series, I believe. I don't know how you get around it. And it just permeates everything, but that needs a lot of budget, and that's what this show has. It needs budget to be able to make that look good, and it just seems to have the backing, and I'm really, really excited for it, if you can't tell. So really, do yourself a favor, watch Wheel of Time. and give it a chance. Give it a chance because it's not going to be Game of Thrones. It's going to be its own thing, and I think you'll like it, especially if you're a Game of Thrones fan. All right, from one Game of Thrones fan to another, I think you'll love it. I think you'll love Wheel of Time, and let me know. Let me know if you're watching it. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.